Okay, so this is my first vlog ever, and I'm doing a video because there's a lot to be said. Um, my blog is Finding Peace, um, and it took me 3 stages to find peace. Um, and it's funny because all these crazy stages actually came in different. I had like 3 different names, to be honest. It was crazy, right? So, like my first stage to finding peace was when my high school days. Actually, I was um, flung into some gossip with family because I was like very entwined in my family, which is a really large family. So I'm learning about family gossip a lot, because I never really circulated myself inside that. And actually, that can be damaging if you have the right kind of manipulators involved. And I never realized that, but I learned that when I was uh, in my high school days. So my first stage of finding peace was um, when I was Jessica Holker, which was my junior high and my high school days. That was my first road to finding peace. And my second one was when I went into the military. When I went into the military, I went to Iraq, which is OIF, and I was part of OIF, and I was with 101st, and I did about 7 or 8 years in the Army, um, and that in itself was another chaotic situation that wore me down to nothing. And my name was Jessica Woods when I went into the military, because before I went into the military, there was so much family gossip that my father had disowned me. So I went from Jessica Holker to Jessica Woods. And and it's funny because I didn't have a whole lot of contact with anybody over there. I really didn't even have a whole lot of contact with my own father. So, I mean, a lot of communications was severed because there was manipulating factors inside that nightmare. But anyway, so I went into the military as Jessica Woods because before I joined, my father had disowned me. So I went into Jessica Woods, and the military wore me down to nothing. And I went from that stage of my life to um, stepping into a marriage as nothing. And no, when I went into my marriage, I had no, I stepped into a marriage feeling like nothing, because the military had worn me down so bad. And I had had like a prior chaos factor before that. So it went from one chaotic situation to another chaotic situation to now I'm stepping into a marriage because between the two, I've been wore down to nothing. And I step into a marriage with no basic, uh, I had nothing that was viable as I stepped into that marriage. All I had was he made me feel great, and I was so happy, and my feelings, which feelings is what defines people. A lot of people, and this is another thing, I recently had this conversation. A lot of people say, oh, I was stupid because I fell for this guy. I should know better because I'm older, blah, 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 blah. And really, you cannot associate intelligence with emotions. You just, you can't. The two don't ever equal out. Emotions what defines us as being human. I mean, intelligence is how we cope with those. You know, so they're totally two different things. So that's something I also wanted to share with a lot of people that, might be circulating through a lot of assholes or, guys that are circulating through a lot of possibly shallow women. There's bad on both sides, But I wanted to bring that forth, that you cannot associate emotions with intelligence. Emotions define us as people. Intelligence define on how we cope with our emotion. So you can't say, I can't believe I fell for this guy and I fell in love with this guy and blah blah blah. You can't associate that with the other, you know, because they don't equal out. They never do. You know, when you feel something for someone, that makes you human. If your heart gets broken, if you're crying, or you're like, shit, this girl had the same flags, I should have known better, blah 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 blah. It's not about that. It's about the ideal that you can feel. There's so many situations where you get people that say, I want a non-committed, I want a non, I want this, I want that, I want something that's not viable, and that demoralizes the fact that you're human, because there's just no possible way. It's just not possible, and some people hide that fact, like, oh no, I'm such a heartless, whatever. But it always ends up to where there's feelings somewhere, because that's what makes us people. You know, what makes us smart is how we cope with that, you know. So never try to equal the two out. Never try to say you're stupid because you felt something, because it's never the case. You're never unintelligent because you have feelings. Feelings do not make you unintelligent. Feelings make you a person, you know. So don't ever degrade yourself and say, I was stupid, because I fell for it. You're not stupid. You're never stupid for feeling. And that's something that I recently had to deal with. But, you know, but anyways, as I move on, my marriage, which was chaotic, and I had no ambitions when I got married. It was just feeling, there was nothing viable past that. The guy that I married, kind of resembled a lot how I felt. He had nothing. He had no ambitions. He reflected a lot of how I felt. And it turned into chaotic because I'm always the type of person that strives for something, because I've always had ambition, and I was down to my, to bottom. And so a lot of my life changed when I was married, because I was already on the bottom. So, and I felt hopeless. And that is the worst feeling in the world to feel, is hopeless. So a lot of my personal growth out of all three of my chaotic situations, from where I was Jessica Holker to Jessica Woods to Jessica Harper, it all climaxed to me finding my peace. And it's a long road. It's a long process. It was actually 3 stages. And it kind of made me realize some things about myself. And I handle things a lot better. And my life is actually a lot stress-free, pretty much. The most crazy drama I have is with my dog. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kill my dog. And everybody's like, don't kill your dog. And I'm like, I'm not, but at this very moment. But in all my life is pretty much stress-free. And those are just because I am able to have that personal control, because I have my priorities set. And I hope this helps people out. People always worry about social standing and social whatever and blah, 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 blah. And they forget what they have at home. So this is my journey to finding peace. So you don't have to die to find peace. Sometimes it feels like you're dying before you get there, because the emotional pain is so hard. But it's possible. You don't have to starve yourself like Gandhi, although I'm sure he found his way in his own terms. But you don't have to be such an extremist to find that. Anyways, and this is my blog. So comments are welcomed, and I really hope this helps people find that they can rise above